All right, everyone. I'm very excited to start our first panel of the day with this one that I'm really excited about. It's called Under the Stars Designing AV for Outdoor Hospitality. And I have some very great panelists who have come to talk to me and kind of help me learn a little bit about this, as well as all of you. We have Rob Voorhees and Eric Steiner of Almo. We have Todd Wingrove of Agio and Richard Leonars of Samsung. Welcome, you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks
Deb.
for having
Glad
us.
to be here.
So, first of all, I would like you all to kind of each go around, talk a little bit about yourselves and your experience, kind of through the context of outdoor. Rob, do you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. So again, Rob Voorhees. I have I guess you can call it a dual role here at Almo. I am director of business development, but also the audio category manager. So as it relates to the topics of this conversation, our in-house audio team that we have can assist with everything from making rather straightforward product recommendations, finding comparable products for different projects, but also the more complex system design. We have an audio line card currently consisting of over 35 of the most well-known audio manufacturers in the pro audio space. So we do a lot of facilitating of the conversations between those parties and the customers to make sure that whatever the end user needs with their project is exactly what we can deliver to them. So as they say, no two projects are alike, and every day presents something different when it comes to the world of pro audio.
Awesome. Eric, do you want to go next?
Sure. Eric Steiner. I'm Vice President of Sales for our hospitality division. I've been in this industry for over 15 years, close to 16 years. And Almo is the largest distributor for hospitality televisions in the industry. But we also do a wide range of appliances and outdoor furniture, which I know we'll touch on here shortly. And we'll get into some fun details.
Beautiful. Todd, what about you?
I'm Vice President of Sales for Agio for about the last 10 years. In this capacity, I work with a lot of the national chains stores. We also have a specialty division where we hit some of the higher end accounts that sell furniture one at a time to individual customers. And just about a year ago, we started the hospitality division. Really, the inspiration there was we seemed to be getting several calls and opportunities to work with various hotels and projects like this. And we decided to step it up a notch, and we working very closely with Elmo and their sales team, and trying to bring some of the products that we have had available for over 40 years to the hospitality industry, and getting some great read here this first year. We just got out of the HD show in Las Vegas. Later this year, we're going to be in New York as well at a boutique show. So we're really excited about the opportunity and thrilled to be with you here today talking about this. Thank you.
Perfect. And Richard, last but not least.
Cool. Yeah. So Rich Leonars on the product side here at Samsung. Been with Samsung for about 13 plus years. But right now my role is within the hospitality space. So Samsung has been in hospitality TV segment for quite a while in this market, working with Almo through a lot of interesting projects. Obviously, a lot of history between the companies, lots of great growth, and also we have products that stem from everything going from in-room to lobby to outdoor. So a huge portfolio of products, and really excited to be part of the conversation.
Awesome. So first question I have, I'm just going to kind of toss this out here, and whoever wants to take it first can. I'm interested to know, what are the top considerations when designing AV systems for outdoor hospitality environments, especially in terms of guest comfort, reliability, and usability?
Yeah, I guess I can take a little bit on that one. For us, obviously, it's making sure there's compatibility. I mean, we have a lot of different products. And there's a lot of different SIs and systems out there. So it's clear that we need to make sure that we are compatible, that when they're building something, we have a pre-sales engineering team that kind of consults, make sure that whatever the solution is that we have and what the customer has, it works. Besides that is, what is the application? Is it in direct sunlight? Is it in shade? Where are things going to be placed? How much brightness do you need on the product? Do you have to have water resistance, LED, LCD type of technology? So there's a lot of it, obviously, and we rely on the experts that are on site, and then having our engineering team be part of that conversation to really make sure that, what is being proposed works, and it's going to be the, at the end of the day, it's going to be a solution that the customer is going to like, and they're going to like it for years to come. The worst thing, obviously, from our side is put something out there, and then within a few months, it's just not working, or some other issue comes up. And now you're talking about post-sales and all the support. So really from the beginning, making sure we have everything set up properly, compatible, and in the right location, and I guess the right technology for the guest.
Yeah, I think just to add that on from an audio perspective, I think a lot of what Richard said can also apply to the audio side. I know personally that when we see not just hospitality, but any type of outdoor audio project come up, one of the first things I always ask about is where exactly, describe what the location is going to look like. For example, are we talking about outdoor rated speakers or all weather rated speakers, which are two totally different things? One, with all weather speakers, they are built to withstand direct exposure to things like, in the desert, sandstorms, on cruise ships, direct exposure to water, whereas an outdoor rated speaker can't withstand those types of elements as well. So we start talking about IP ratings of speakers, and that's where it's our turn to sort of educate the customer on what's right for that project. So definitely getting a better feel of what types of products we're looking at, what type of property. But then, as Richard said, also about the placement of them. Certainly, I think all of us who travel would agree with this. We've probably all stayed at a hotel where you are kept up in the middle of the night by music playing in different parts of the hotel, and that is a telltale sign that whoever designed that system didn't really take the guest comfort into account. So from our perspective, we want to make sure we're not pointing speakers directly at the guest room buildings or areas where they might want it to be a little quieter. So those are the two primary things I think of, but there's countless others that we can talk about.
Absolutely.
I would just add two big things is, what's the resort or the hotel you're looking to accomplish? What are they trying to propose, or what would they like to see, or what would they like to add to the property? Or if it's a new construction, what do they want to be incorporated into the property? And then obviously working within their budget, they may want something that may be a little bit out of their budget, and you kind of walk them through different options or scenarios or technology that may be within their budget, but still accomplish their goals. So really understanding the hotelier or the resort's goals and working within their budget, I think, is really key as well.
Yeah, the only thing I would add too is just getting into a more sophisticated division now with the hospitality. It used to be our biggest frustration was the outdoor furnishings and the outdoor experience was just kind of an afterthought. It was something that the hotels or restaurants, whoever, were just throwing it together quickly, without really thought about what the customer experience should be. Really no thought whatsoever for power outlets or charging stations even, and things like that. So by doing all this work on the front side, and some of these comments are great, just hearing, and really makes it exciting to be into this business now. We can do things like provide shade, with umbrellas. We have outdoor fire pits for extending the season. We can do things like that, but it's really exciting to hear the sophistication, when you're actually talking about the actual AV equipment and everything.
Yeah. Kind of on the other side too, how do the different products that you guys are all talking about, because we're kind of talking about like audio and visual and furniture. So how do these all come together to create something that's very cohesive and potentially even branded to create that outdoor guest experience?
I mean, from my point, right, it's big part of that is I think what Eric mentioned, right, is getting early engagement with the property and kind of walking them through what it is that they're looking to do. What is the desired outcome? What is a budget is a big thing. I mean, that was an excellent point. Obviously, everybody wants a luxury, and then the budget comes up, and suddenly that luxury starts to drop a little bit. Because that will also then impact what the from a screen, at least from my side of the house, from a screen that you could put into the space, how big or how powerful you bring something out there. But all that, I mean, it really comes into the early discussions with the property, the vision that they have, working with a team. Almo has a great solutions team that can come out there and kind of work through the ideas with them, and then bring in the partners to kind of fulfill that vision, obviously, with the customer.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love doing whenever I talk to customers is asking them about the entire project, not just the audio portion, because one of the things we see not just with hospitality, but a lot of the times is uh, customers treat it like independent jobs almost, rather than one big cohesive project, or in other words, one big space. And what that does is we design an audio system not knowing, well, what's over here or what's over here, what does this look like? And even talking about something such as furnishings, you've been in properties before where the speakers could be black, but all the other furnishings in the space are white. And something as trivial as that really makes a big deal. But also, when you're talking about outdoor spaces, is making sure we're using the right equipment for what the space is entailing. So maybe we don't put a large directional speaker where it's maybe a quieter pool lounge area where they want more softer ambiance. So those are all different things that we take into consideration, just to make sure it does feel like one cohesive project and not just speakers thrown in a pool area.
Yeah, one more thing I was gonna add too is that a lot of the spaces or the ideas or conceptions, I think, have to be inviting. And if you're in a resort, let's say, environment, and you're talking about the furniture, you obviously want the furniture to look good, first of all, but also be comfortable enough for your guests to actually stay in that area. Because more often than not, the outdoor space should be to some extent a revenue generating opportunity for the hotel or the resort itself. And if someone is not comfortable in where they're sitting, or they're not being engaged, via entertainment, or what someone's trying to accomplish, or they're not enjoying the music that's surrounding them, they're not going to stay there, either potentially in the future, or stay there while they're on site at the property. And maybe there's a great restaurant or a great bar, and that if they get up and leave that, then that's obviously a missed revenue opportunity for the property. So I think making the initial investment into the overall entertainment of what you're trying to accomplish, whether that's with display, audio, or certainly the comfort and design of the furniture itself. You want it to be an inviting space that keeps the guests interacting with the space and with the property itself.
That's a great point, Eric. And basically, what has been dominating the furnishing is what we call deep seating pieces, which are more lounging type of pieces. With that, you can have, as I mentioned, fire pits that have a little bit of a lip on it, so you can still have finger food, a place to put your drink. You have end tables, side tables, so that you can accommodate a place to put the person's cell phone, their drink. Like I said, if they want some food. We found when we were working that with dining room furniture, you would eat for 10 minutes and then the rest of the time you're lounging, and it's just plain and simple not as comfortable as the deep seating pieces, which is more like living room furniture. And that's really been a tremendous asset in order to enjoy the overall experience.
No, good points, all of you. Rich, question for you. What are some creative or unexpected ways that outdoor AV is being used, even beyond entertainment and beyond media, like menu boards, particularly to drive engagement or drive revenue?
Yeah, so I mean, we have a couple different ways of doing that. One is just looking even at our kiosks, right? This is a way that you can put outdoor um, interaction with the guests, where you're, instead of having a person out there taking orders or engaging with them, here you have now a machine that can do bar orders, food orders, things of that nature, and then send it to the kitchen, and then the kitchen will bring it out. So that's one way you can have revenue generating without the expense of additional labor. For us, also, we showcase at our recent sales meeting sort of AI technology, and this were more, it's sort of avatars in a way that could engage again with the guests, with the folks, giving them directions for local, maybe like things that they can do in the area. Maybe they could even start selling venue tickets or other things as a way to engage with the guests, provide them with more relevant, quicker information than having to have a person out there with them. And then even with some of the just movie night type things where you can have activities for them to be out there more. If you're in a resort where it's a family friendly type resort, is how do you also engage with the rest of the family and provide sort of environment where now you can have other services associated with the screen as well as entertainment. Obviously, audio and furnishing is really important, and also to cater to the different age groups and the different areas in the property. I assume a space where you're going to have kids jumping around and doing things is going to look a little bit different than in a space that's really geared towards that bar and the adults in that area. But we continue to come up with different ways to really bring more automation, more smarts, I guess, into the technology. To help with some of the labor challenges that all the hotels run into, and provide quicker access to information that might be easier for the guests to kind of absorb through their own engagement with the technology versus having to go find somebody and interact with them in that way. We've also seen, in our EV charging stations, where you have now also digital ads that can drive additional revenue to the property. And that's, everybody's always exploring that. Now, you don't want to do too much advertising because people do get a little bit tired of that and start to ignore it. But if you do the right balance of ad revenue with other ways of engaging the guests, I think there's a lot that can be done, and the properties benefit obviously from increased revenue as well as decreased on the cost side of the equation.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I was just going to add too, as far as a means of entertainment, obviously creating guest experiences regardless of property, I think is paramount above all, and creating memorable experiences. But even on site at the property, if there's different ways, if it's a property that's catering to maybe health and wellness or holistic, healing, to maybe have workout classes incorporated maybe in a pool setting. And of course, you need really good audio, for that. And maybe there's displays that show virtual instructors versus a instructor that's physically with you, and kind of creating that experience in those types of properties. So there's a lot of different directions you could go to enhance the experience for the guest itself, depending on what you're trying to accomplish at the property.
Yeah. Rob, I want to pick on you next because you kind of touched on how outdoor audio can be really tricky in terms of like you have to be really careful with, polar patterns, speaker placement. How do you ensure clear, consistent sound coverage where you want it without like disturbing people who maybe don't want to hear that? Like, if you want to get sciency with me for a few minutes.
I don't know how sciencey I'll get, but I'll give you some examples here of what I mean. I think the first part of it has to be paying attention to the initial design rather than essentially trying to replicate what you would do inside a property, because we are talking two totally different applications. Understanding from the design side, what buildings do have guests or do have more quieter operations or functions than, say, an outdoor pool party type entertainment space. Once you get past that side of it, you can look at everything from directional speakers, which can essentially throw the sound a larger distance. You're going to see those outdoor at a pool, in Vegas when they host large parties, and they had the Super Bowl playing outside and things like that. You're going to see those types of speakers, just as the name implies, because you can direct the sound in whatever direction you want it to go in. However, on the opposite side of that spectrum, there is something to be said about two things: landscape speakers, and also using more smaller speakers over a certain space, because the more speakers you use, the lower you can turn the volume down. So you're not blasting a sound for a larger distance. If you picture yourself standing in line at any given theme park, let's say Disney World, for an example, and even though Splash Mountain doesn't exist anymore, I'm going to use that as my example here. How often you're standing in a line and all you hear are jungle noises, but you don't see a single speaker while you're standing there, and you're wondering, where is it coming from? They're doing a couple of different things. One, they're utilizing landscape speakers, which a lot of like the larger subwoofers actually get buried into the ground, and the only thing you see is the very top of the sub. So they're completely hidden, and they use them all along the weight line that, before you get onto the ride. So it's not just one speaker that you're hearing; it could be 20 to 30 different speakers. That's great, because the only people that hear that sound are the people that are standing right there. So in a hotel, you might have more speakers surrounding a pool or surrounding the walkway as you're just walking along the property, but nobody else can hear it because it's not the directional speaker that I mentioned. The other aspect of this is doing something along the lines of like an acoustic barrier, if you will. And these could be anything from landscaping and making sure you have more shrubs and hedges and trees, or even just throwing a pergola somewhere outside, because all of those things act as barriers for making sure the sound doesn't reach the areas that you want it to reach in. Outside of that, and I talked a little bit about when we were talking about how to treat this as a cohesive space. Zoning is a big part of it, because you can actually put different volume controls throughout the outdoors. Maybe if you have, as I said, a pergola, or if you have, pool and patio lounges, and cabanas was the word I was looking for. Each cabana could have their own personalized volume control in there, where not only can you select what type of music you want to play there, but you can also select the volume. So by the pool, it can be louder, but along the walkway, or as Eric said, maybe a meditation area or a therapy area outside, they could have it softer and a completely different type of music. So those are all different ways of achieving that. And I'm sure all of us have experienced it. We just never, because you don't see the speakers, you don't necessarily think of it.
No, good point. Todd, I want you to answer this one. So, how do furnishings and AV solutions kind of support spaces? And you kind of talked about this, but particularly in the spaces that need to transition from daytime lounging to like evening events.
Yeah, I did touch on it earlier. The deep seating type pieces, give the best of both worlds. It allows you a place to eat and then lounge for the rest of the night. Fire pits are a tremendous way to enhance the overall AV experience. It not only extends the season, when it gets a little bit cooler, you get a little bit of heat to make the season a little bit more enjoyable. No different than a umbrella can help make a hot day manageable in in the middle of summer. The real beauty, with ottomans, with chaises, you have so many different ways that you can just relax and take in the beautiful music, the atmosphere. It's once again, it just comes down to the planning. What type of experience do you want? What kind of space do you have? You have to make it so it's not cluttered. You can still easily get around it. It could be darker at night. You maybe don't want smaller pieces that could get in the way if somebody is getting up and excusing themselves. So it's all in the planning. We have so many nice pieces to allow for drinks and food to be eaten, and just to relax and take in the beautiful weather. And like I said, we can enhance that a little bit with fire pits and umbrellas to make it more comfortable, to help people adapt to the weather of the time. So,
Absolutely. And Eric, I'm going to ask this one to you first, but this is kind of a question to everybody. What's one mistake that you commonly see in outdoor AV and amenity design, and how do you recommend that hotels avoid it?
That's a good question. I think the biggest mistake is probably not doing enough research or looking at the various options that exist in what you're trying to accomplish. I think working with the right people is obviously extremely important, knowledgeable people that are certified in what they're selling and understanding how to deploy the technologies that you're looking for. But I think maybe the planning or the understanding of what they want to do, how does it fall within the capital expenditure budget that they have, and executing that accordingly, and also being realistic on the time frame of how to implement those products and services as well.
Anyone else
Yeah.
want to take a crack? Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I mean, Eric hit on the majority of things, but also obviously outdoor space, seasonality, right? What's that space going to look like across the year, not just plan for what's happening during one time of period? How can you use it, maximize it in different seasons? I mean, from what I think, and it goes back to what Eric said, right, is working with the right professional, not trying to do a lot of things on a low budget and then expect amazing results. So it's just, if you're working with the right team, the folks that have done this before, they will know the right questions. They will check everything out, make sure it meets those expectations. So I think a lot of it is just some planning, and like everything, right, get the professionals there who know how this stuff works and what it should look like. Your brother-in-law might be great for his home AV system, but it's probably not the right person that's going to be able to do this from a commercial, large-scale type of revenue-generating space.
Yeah, and I would just I mentioned IP ratings a little earlier, and just to expand on those again is those ratings exist for a reason, and whether somebody truly pays attention to that number or not makes a big difference. A lot of factors, and just like Eric was talking about budgets, it makes a big difference between somebody purchasing the wrong equipment up front and then all of a sudden having to replace it because water got in and wasn't supposed to. So, pay attention to the IP ratings. It's typically IP plus two numbers. The first number really references how much protection against solids like dust or dirt, particles, things like that. The second number talks about, water and other liquids that can get in. So the higher those numbers, the more protection your speaker is going to have. And that's something that I would strongly suggest. Again, we talk about getting the right person to do the job, educating yourselves on those and making sure you truly understand where is it going and making sure it's the right product for that project.
Absolutely. Last question I have, and this is kind of for just anyone who wants to answer, all of you if you want. So looking ahead, what innovations or guest expectations do you guys think are going to shape the next generation of outdoor hospitality experiences?
I'll jump real quick and then I'll let everybody answer. I think there are two things we touched on one earlier. One is experiential, right? Creating a certain type of experience. You can go something very extreme like the Stadium Swim in Las Vegas, where it's a massive sports book plus sports viewing, theater type of experience, but outdoor and pool environment. But I think it's also where technology and experience kind of meet. And what does automation look like? Richard talked about automation as far as maybe ordering to save on labor costs, but it's also how your smart device may interact with your profile at a property or what you're into, and how the property could use that information that is created within your profile. I mean, all the brands themselves are very, very focused on enhancing the technology within their own application. So if you are, have a certain hotel loyalty program, everything is really being driven through the app, through the application, and whether that's ordering or potentially viewing what's on your phone to a screen. I know we talked about budgets a lot earlier too, and the great thing about Samsung and the audio solutions that we have is that it's not a one size fits all. There's so many different products and services that are available to fit any budget, whether it's a mid-scale select service property, all the way up to a high-end resort and everywhere in between. So I know we mentioned that a lot, but it's also I don't want to scare people off and think, oh, everything that we're talking about is has to be the most expensive solution. There's plenty of solutions to fit everybody's needs and what they want to accomplish, and that's what there's properties for everybody and every experience, and it's really where technology and I think an experience are going to converge to create a really memorable stay for a person.
That's a great point. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot to add to it, but from an experience, I think what we're seeing as well is, the discreteness on the displays. People don't just want to have a blank screen on the wall. They're trying to figure out ways to hide it a little bit. We have artwork on some of our models to make it look a little bit less than a television. Goes back a little bit on what Rob was saying with the speakers hidden behind sort of plants and other flowers. So I think that adds a lot of what we're seeing. Some of the demands is how do you make the screens there, but not there when you don't want it to be.
Yeah, from the furniture side, in order to give that kind of elevated experience, we've been using a material called Resista, which is a green-friendly, sustainable product, which stays cool to the touch, and certainly the guests appreciate that on some of the hot days. We found a way to actually wrap that and mold it where we don't just use that on like flat tabletops anymore. We can actually wrap it around the arms and legs of frames to give a beautiful look, a wood-like look with texture that doesn't have to be oiled and doesn't have to be touched up. And frankly, no tree is having to be cut down in order to produce it. So that's what we've been trying to really gear a lot of our products, especially, like I said, for these type of installations that have that elevated feel, very sophisticated look to kind of coincide with some of the things that Samsung are doing as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just follow that up on the audio side and just saying, much like over the years, we're seeing displays everywhere used for so many different applications. Audio is going to be the same way. And in hospitality, it goes from everything from life safety purposes and using as a notification system for guests, going to some of the examples I talked about before about, Bluetooth and voice activated and making sure customers are hearing, the music that they want to hear instead of just whatever the hotel has playing. It's no different than going to a sports bar or restaurant and you're sort of forced to listen to whatever they're playing on their iPad. So a lot of personalization. It's, when you walk into the guest room and your name is already on the screen telling you what events are coming up, audio is going to be the same way, just so guests get more of that personalized touch. But that's just going to keep expanding over time.
Yeah, perfect. Well, actual last question I have for all of you is where can people find more information about you and each of your companies? Rob, do you want to start?
Sure. So for Almo Pro AV, you can go to it's actually exertusalmo.com /pro audio. And then Eric on your side for hospitality as well.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Todd,
our website is hospitality.exertusammo.com, and we have many great products and services. Obviously, certainly with Samsung, which we talked about, and our friendly our folks at Agio that we work really close with in our Cape Soleil outdoor furniture line. So, and anybody can call or email anytime.
perfect. Todd?
Yeah, just jumping on what Eric just said, Elmo basically handles the majority of the country for us. So getting in touch with them through their sites, they get everything that they need to know from our catalog to pricing, to who your representative is that can give you more detailed information.
Perfect. And Richard?
Yeah, so from our side, we have Samsung.com. Obviously, say the easier one, and then just /hospitality to give us our products. We also do have a section with inside sort of white papers, case studies, and stuff like that, focus on the different industries. So it's a good way to kind of pick up latest and greatest. And lastly, of course, with Alma, where you can have all the product description, what our latest and greatest are, pricing and everything else needed to really build a business.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I do believe that is all the time we have. So we are going to go to a quick break, and I will be right back with our next session of the day. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Bye-bye. Cheers.